So the Black Sea Colonies Culture Pack is out today, and I thought I'd break down everything it has to offer. As a side note, Massilia were added as a free faction, but I won't be covering them as this is a review of the Culture Pack only. The Black Sea Colonies adds 3 new playable factions to Rome 2. These factions will be playable in the Grand Campaign only. They are Pergamon, Siberia, and Colonies. The theme of this DLC is hybrid factions. Each faction is a colony of former Greek heritage, so each one is a mix of Greek and their neighbouring regions. I'll go through each faction one by one, showing their description, traits, starting conditions, units, and finally, my opinion. First up is Pergamon. I should preface by saying all Black Sea colonies have their own unique traits, which is a plus 5% research rate and a plus 2 to cultural conversion, which is needed being surrounded by different cultures all the time. Pergamon are the faction closest to their Aegean brethren, starting with one region in the province of Asia. They are branded as being normal difficulty, which for the most part I'd agree with. Their faction traits are minus 25% building construction costs, plus 10% to recruitment, and plus 4 growth per turn. Their military victory conditions will see them reaching as far west as Magna Graecia and as far east as Mesopotamia, which is actually a relatively controlled area you have to expand to, so forming allies with Carthage, Celtic factions, or the steppe factions would definitely give you a benefit in trade. Pergamon have 5 unique buildings: the Great Altar of Pergamon, Library of Pergamon, Spring of Asclepius, Baths of Asclepius, and Sanctuary of Asclepius. Due to limited time to review each faction, I couldn't find out what the buildings all did, as they are mostly late game buildings that work alongside existing ones like temples or sanitation. Pergamon also have a unique technology, which is the last tech in the philosophy tree called Pergamonus, which clears up some corruption and gives public order bonus across the whole faction. Pergamon have 3 new units, the first of which is a game of spears. These can be also used as a general, and this unit is very powerful mainly due to their javelins that they can throw. They are treated as missile infantry first hand during battles, giving them a very long range arc and allowing them to throw much more javelins than a regular unit. Then as a spear unit, they are upper tier spear infantry, so a great response to sword infantry so long as they get a good few volleys off first. A great defensive unit. Pergamon's noble cavalry. These are a pretty standard high tier shock cavalry unit similar to the Hippeus lancers of other Greek factions, but have a much greater charge bonus and slightly better melee defense and morale at the expense of some armor. They do have Hippeus lancers also, so the option is there for both. Picked peltasts. This unit is one of the most elite missile units in the game. They aren't amazing, but if you want strong javelin men, you can't get much better than the picked peltasts. Their missile damage is among the highest in the game, their range is the same as other peltasts, but their melee attack and weapon damage is similar to Pergamon's Galatian sword unit, which is its only sword infantry unit. Obviously they have 120 men over 160, but they have stronger armor and similar defense, so it might be worthwhile just using these as melee infantry once they've thrown some of their missiles, at least over the Galatians, though the cost is twice as much. An overview of the roster shows that Pergamon lacks quality sword infantry and is very dependent on spears. It's a shame they don't have thorax swordsmen, but obviously CA feel that the game of spears make up for it. They have great missiles, good shock cavalry, but ultimately I think they are lacking quality high tier infantry units. Athens have picked hoplites, Bactria have royal guard, Macedon have royal peltasts, shield bearers and foot companions, which makes me wonder why anyone would ever choose Pergamon in multiplayer. Pergamon are the faction I played with the least, just due to time constraints, but do seem like a fun faction that feel more Greek than the other 2 I'd say. I like how their victory conditions are relatively close together, but their lack of high tier units make me wonder if the campaign will get stale halfway through if there isn't anything to work toward militarily. Next up we have Siberia. Siberia begin owning all of the Bosporus province and so are able to sit a little bit more comfortably than Pergamon or Colchis, enabling an edict straight away. They do however start at war with a minor faction to the east and must take them out quickly or there will be hordes of steppe armies arriving at your doors. They are branded as being an easy faction, and I would agree, as I had a relatively easy challenge in landing in the Balkans and spreading westward. Once you keep in good relations with steppe factions, it's alright to expand comfortably. Their faction traits are plus 5 to corruption, plus 25% wealth from agriculture, and minus 25% unhappiness from different cultures. As for their military victory conditions, they are one of the only factions I've seen that don't have to control their starting province to win. Instead, their conquest will see them blazing a trail as far south as Egyptus, one of the least spread out campaigns I've seen. Of course you'll need to go either east or west to get the remaining provinces under control, but it gives you a lot of freedom to make allies. Siberia have 3 unique buildings: the Prytaneon, the Rose Marl building, and Sanctuary of Demeter. I never came across any of them in my campaign. Again, they are late tier buildings. They have 4 unique units. The Scythian Hoplites. These are a new addition to mid-tier spear infantry. They aren't particularly special, but fill a gap in an otherwise empty compromise area. They are disciplined, meaning they won't be affected by a general's death, which is rare for such a cheap unit. Cimmerian Heavy Archers. a unit that must be regarded as OP. Their missile damage is on par with even the best peltasts. However, they offer better range and far more ammunition than most peltasts, including the new picked peltasts. They also switch to spears when in melee, which is very useful for dealing with cavalry or using them as a sort of loose melee defense. Cimmerian Noble Infantry. This unit is almost exactly like picked hoplites for Athens, however they have slightly less armor overall. Lastly, they have another unit of picked peltasts, which is just the same as I mentioned before for Pergamon. Siberia are a mix between Greek and steppe, so their roster has a lot of cavalry and missile cavalry. They also have units such as steppe archers and steppe lancers, which are a nice addition, however they are sorely lacking in melee infantry, only fielding young axes, who are basically a mob-like unit. However, they do make up for it with their missile cav and high-tier spear units, unlike Pergamon. Siberia are the faction I played with the longest, and I actually thought they would be the most dull. However, I really enjoyed using my numerous spears to pin the enemy and then using my horse archers to really dig into their backs. A very fun faction. Lastly, we have Colchis. Starting with just one territory in Caucasia, they are branded as a hard faction. I would agree with this. I live streamed it on the official Total War Twitch channel yesterday, and I managed to expand to 3 settlements before facing serious interruptions from Pontus and my own public order. Luckily, the steppe factions left me alone, but I imagine if you're not careful with them, it will be very difficult. Their faction traits are plus 15% trade income, a major diplomatic penalty with Greek factions, and a plus 4 happiness from other cultures, which is a weird one to have because it might mean that you're better off not having a complete culture control in some cases. Their military victory conditions will see them staying on the east side of the map, however they will have to invade their ancient homeland of Hellas and Black Sea neighbours Cimmeria. Colchis have 2 new buildings, the Temple of the Golden Fleece and the Trade Centre. Colchis have 1 unique unit, the Colchian Nobles, which are a pretty solid upper mid-tier spear unit with strong armor protection. Colchis are a hybrid of Eastern and Greek, but to be honest they have all the weakest Eastern types of units, such as Eastern Spearmen, Axemen and Hillmen. This makes Colchis a fairly weak nation with a difficult starting position, and unless you're really interested in a Greek-Eastern hybrid, it's probably just kind of a dull faction. So that's pretty much it for the Black Sea Colonies culture pack. Basically, my opinion of this culture pack is pretty similar to all the other ones. You usually get 2 cool factions and 1 not so much, which makes the price seem a little bit expensive. However, I do feel Pergamon and Cimmeria are surprisingly fun to play and interesting, and at least for Cimmeria, they're pretty good in multiplayer. I think it all comes down to personal preference and interest though. I'm a fan of Greek factions, so I do have a slight bias towards these factions. Anyway guys, that's the review. I don't score in my reviews, I just show you what you'll get and tell you what I think. Hopefully I've helped you make your mind up. Let me know what you think in the comments, and I'll see you in the next one.